Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with my review for Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 2. Alright, so we are back for episode 2 of Yellowjackets, and whereas I thought last episode there just wasn't a lot of stuff happening, though it was a good introductory kind of episode to start us off, this one I felt like a lot of stuff was packed into the runtime here, just I think slightly over an hour. So a bit of a longer episode than that first one, and the ending, of course, was kind of a big deal. The ending of last episode kind of set that in motion, but then I feel like it was a big jump this episode at the ending as well. So, of course, we'll get into all that with my recap here I'll go over, and then towards the end I'll share kind of my rating for the episode, some predictions, a little bit more talk about Shauna and where I kind of see her going in the rest of the season, and some other stuff like that. So, love to hear what you guys thought, though, of this episode and even the premiere as well, what you're thinking of the start of this second season here. Yeah, love to hear all you guys' thoughts, and I'm sure I'll miss some stuff too, so feel free to add that as well in the comments. And if you enjoy this review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. But without any further ado then, let's get into, like I said, a bit of the recap here. And I'd like to split it up between the teenagers and the adults. Just a lot easier that way. That's the way I did my last review for episode 1. So we'll just keep going with that one here. And we'll start off with the teenagers timeline, which to me is always a little bit more exciting, right, than the adults. But that's what it is, especially this one, right? Okay, so let's start off with Shauna and Jackie again. So this is the way I started off last episode talking about it, and this one I felt like it's only right to start it with this as well, considering where we end the episode. So not necessarily going to go in chronological order here with this one. So though we do start this episode with Shauna doing Jackie's makeup. So we start the episode in a very similar way to last episode, where Shauna is having this scene, this kind of moment with Jackie that obviously she's imagining in her mind because Jackie is dead and just laying there in reality. But I really liked it, and I really hope this isn't it for Ella Purnell. I hope we might see her again in some type of flashback maybe or something, but obviously with the end of this episode it looks like, you know, the corpse is gone. So I'm not sure that we'll see her in this same capacity, but I really enjoyed this scene and the one from last episode. I do think Ella Purnell is one of the strongest actors in that teenage cast. Or obviously the actors in reality, almost none of them are teen. I don't even think any of them are teenagers, actually. They're like in their 20s. But, you know, I think she's one of the best, you know, cast in that group there. So, yeah, just another great scene with the two of them in it at the beginning. She's doing her makeup, and obviously still talking to her about this stuff. But then we see that she is, and then I think it maybe skips ahead a little bit. It's kind of interspersed here, but then we get another cut of this scene, and she is about to cut her arm off to supposedly eat, right? That's kind of where this is going, and we hear Jackie kind of, you know, say, like, you know you want to, and something like that. I don't need any more, you can have it, this kind of thing. And so we see her almost cut her arm off, and then I like the way they do this too, because they have Jackie do it at first, and then we kind of back up, and it's Shauna with the knife in her hand, obviously, right? Of course, Jackie wouldn't have it in her hand, and so Shauna has the knife, and Jackie says, "You're the one with the knife in your hand," and Shauna kind of, you know, steps back and, you know, is a little taken aback by that, and looks down and has the knife in her hand that she's doing this. So I thought that was really an interesting beat, because of course later in the episode she is the one encouraging the feast, I guess we'll call it, to occur or to start. But in this moment in this episode, we still see that she's kind of hesitant of it, and she knows that it's wrong, right? Like, she knows after eating this ear, she's not full bore into this quite yet. She is a little more hesitant still, and kind of alarmed, right? Like, taken aback by the fact that she was about to do this with her arm. And obviously, as we see later in the episode, she didn't go through with it, right? She just kind of ran out of the meat shed after that point and did not obviously cut her arm off, because we see that wound later on. So the other girls we see are kind of worried about her. We saw this last episode too, but this one I feel like they're just at this point maybe even getting suspicious, right, of what's going on out there, what she's doing, and also she's kind of holding them up for eating as well, bringing in the meat for them. So Thaisa is the one who is kind of the most curious or the most suspicious, and so eventually she goes and finds Jackie's body and sees the makeup on her, and of course she's just kind of horrified of this and figures out, how to what extent that this is going on, right? So that Shauna has been doing this for this long and is this invested now that she's doing her makeup. And so I feel like Thaisa in on one side is like kind of like terrified of what this is and how it looks, but then also she does want what's best for Shauna, and she kind of forces Shauna and the others to finally burn Jackie's corpse, or I guess to get rid of it, but obviously they can't bury it, so they have to cremate, as she says, or burn the corpse. And so she's the kind of one that has to put this in motion and kind of force Shauna to do it. And it really is for the good of Shauna as well. I don't think it's obviously, like I said, it's two-sided here. Yeah, she's kind of terrified of what that of that sight and seeing that happen, but she also knows for the sake of Shauna and for the sake of her sanity, really, it's the best to get rid of the corpse so that she can kind of start grieving and move on, right? Which obviously she has not done yet, and it's been 2 months. Remember, like for us it's right away, but for them it's been 2 months of this time skip, so that has to be kept in mind as well. And so before they get Jackie's body up on the kind of the wood right there that they set up to burn the corpse, Lottie gives Shauna her necklace back that Jackie was wearing. And this is just a small moment, but of course this is big if you've been paying attention since the premiere, of course. The pit girl, or a lot of people are calling her, that dies at the very beginning. We see that she's wearing that necklace, and of course that was obviously a big question in season 1 because we saw Jackie wearing that necklace. So obviously we know then once Jackie died, okay, that's someone else that has that necklace on in that scene, and so just kind of builds that mystery. And now Shauna has it back, and obviously we know that she's not the pit girl, unless for some miracle that she somehow survived that, which she doesn't, right? That pit girl dies, it looks like. So somehow this necklace is going to be passed on to somebody else or stolen by somebody else, but it's really a kind of a big moment to catch this, and now we're on necklace watch, as I like to call it, to see where this thing goes next, because we know whoever basically ends up with it is going to die. So going to be really interesting to see that. But anyway, so in the process then of her corpse burning, we're going to skip ahead now. So when the corpse is about to burn or catch fire from these logs beneath it, this snow falls on it from the tree above. And this whole sequence I thought was really great. I really quite liked it, especially this one and that kind of the whole sequence with Travis and Natalie as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. Just that whole kind of, it's this constant, balance or question, I guess, of real or surreal. And that's what I thought they did so well in season 1. Like something like the bear comes to mind, right? With, the reality of just this bear coming up right up to the cabin and they kill it? Or is it this kind of surreal thing that they've been playing with the symbols, with Lottie and the stuff she's able to do? And they've always had this, to me, a pitch perfect balance of that real or surreal thing. And to me, this was just another example of that. Because, yeah, in reality, it's pretty convenient that this tree would just drop the snow right on her body, right? And then, what happens, right? But it would make a little more sense if it was the surreal thing of something, this force that does it. And like I said, it kind of, the way they play out that sequence, a really great panning shot as well, when we kind of see it kind of, it almost feels like this kind of spirit, like in flight, coming to that branch, and then we see the snow drop down. So yeah, I really like that. And I guess, yeah, like it could be reality. It's kind of convenient. It could be, like it's still possible, but it would make more sense if there's kind of that surreal element. So I really like that. But yes, the snow falls on the corpse, of course, and it causes, basically, I believe, at least from what I saw in the episode, I did kind of replay it a couple times, but it looks like it basically gets cooked from the steam, right? Instead of, the corpse actually catching fire and now burning, getting cremated properly, it actually then has this steam and basically cooks. The corpse is then cooked instead of actually burnt, right? And so then, of course, they wake up at the end of the episode. They smell this, I guess, cooked corpse smell, or whatever that would smell like. They say it smells awful, but then, of course, when they get out there, Shauna and them gather around, and Shauna is the one who says, she wants us to do it, or she would want this to happen. And what a great way to, I guess, the writing of that, but also, to me, mainly the directing here, in having it kind of interlaced with this scene of them at this, look like kind of like a royal dining room table thing, and they're all kind of in these gowns and tiaras, I think, right? Or, kind of something like that, crowns, whatever, and just around this table digging in and eating this food. And then it's kind of interspersed with the reality of them literally taking pieces off of Jackie's corpse and eating it. So it's just such a great job the way they did that, because if it just plays out normally, I just feel like, okay, it'd be kind of intense and that, but it's just such a great way to do that. And to me, it's the exact tone that this show has done so well with from the very beginning, from the pilot. Of just kind of that handling of that tone and using that kind of scene there. Also to show it as well, to show us like what is happening in this scene and how they're feeling doing this. So really interesting stuff. So obviously, yeah, like a holy shit moment. We are now at the level of cannibalism, or I guess last episode really we were, because Shauna ate the ear. But this is huge, right? This is a huge jump, at least to me it is. I just want to float the question out there of whether this is too soon or not. Because again, if this really is a 5-season plan, which we've heard of, right? It's a 5-year plan. I just think it's a little soon to get into the cannibalist stuff here. I'm not sure if they'll have this, and then the rest of the season they kind of pull back on it, and we see what their reaction is to it or something like that. We'll have to see, but to me it just seems a little too soon if we're 3.5 seasons to go yet and we're already getting into this. So it did seem like a big jump, but again, I'm gonna hold my kind of criticism there to see in the future where we go from here. So anyways, huge moment. And my only question too is, like, how would that taste? Is that even, like, how would your body react? I mean, Jackie, I guess it was in the meat like freezer thing, right? So I guess they was like frozen for a while, but I don't know. I just don't think that would be good. Like, I think you'd get a serious disease or something from eating that. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. Apparently they are, that hungry that they would do that. And I guess that's kind of the explanation there. And so, yeah, we'll have to see how their bodies react to it, what happens after this. If it goes over well, maybe they keep doing it, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And that's where we end up, as we saw in the pilot, where that ends up heading, and we've seen obviously teases of that since then. All right, so I kind of skipped ahead to the end then, but let's go back a little bit. Natalie and Travis, I thought, again, this is one of my favorite components of the teenager timeline. Natalie, one of my favorite characters. I think Sophie Thatcher, the actress, does a fantastic job. Definitely one of the best of the cast as well. And so they go for another hunt, and while Travis decides to split up, he goes a different direction. He's being influenced by Lottie a lot, as we see now, and so she's kind of, maybe you could say manipulating him at this point, and he's, really kind of falling for it, and now he wants to go this different direction, try something else. So Natalie takes this opportunity, uses Javi's pants. She cuts her own leg to, like, put the blood on the pants, and then of course she shows Travis, the pants later that she found, and this whole thing. So it's a setup, right? Just showing Travis proof that she found, where Javi is, and that basically he is dead, right? I mean, seeing the shorts, seeing them bloodied like that out in that area, it's pretty clear proof at this point that Javi is dead. And this is exactly what she wants for Travis. She wants, again, it's kind of like Taissa and Shauna, actually, in many ways. Where Taissa wants the best for Shauna and is, forcing her to get rid of Jackie's corpse. In this case, it's Natalie wanting Travis to get rid of that thought that Javi is still alive, which ultimately is the best for him to move on and, again, start that grieving process that he still hasn't done yet. So it seems to work as well. Travis does seem to fall for it, especially towards the end there. I believe he puts the shorts in with Jackie's corpse onto the wood, onto the logs there to burn, and I think he does say goodbye Javi or something like that, and so yeah, seems to work, but of course for now, right, I'm sure that we'll see that he's gonna find out somehow that she lied about this, and I still think that Javi is alive somehow. I think it would be a huge red herring at this point to have him not be alive because they've just teased it so much and left that door open for so long now. So I really do think he is alive. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but if he is alive, obviously Travis is going to find out that Natalie did this, and it's not going to be good for the two of them. So yeah, but for now, seems to work, and hopefully Travis moves on. Of course, they do have sex later on, and so it's kind of that romantic moment there that Travis hasn't had for a long time because he's been focused on Javi. So at least that's how I interpreted it. And again, a great montage there of kind of overlaying the stuff with how he is experiencing that moment with Lottie and the feeling that he had from her touching him in the episode prior. So really interesting stuff there. It's again that surreal or real thing of, okay, what is what is Lottie's ability here that she has when she touches Travis, when she well, I guess touches adult Travis again later, as we see in this episode, and of course that girl in that facility last week. So yeah, really interesting stuff on that. And then we see Taissa. I just thought I'd kind of throw this in here, not too big of a thing, but she does manage to cut the rope, tying her to Van, runs off in the middle of the night, so having one of these episodes again. She almost walks off this cliff before Van saves her, and it was kind of like, of course, like they kind of built up the tension, and yeah, you knew Van was going to save her right before she fell off. But it looks like she was following a figure there. So we kind of see, what she sees. It's kind of POV, and we see this figure. And I'm not even sure how to describe it, really. But she was, watching this and kind of following them to where the cliff was. And the most interesting thing, when they kind of pan off Taissa and Van going back safely, we see the symbol is inscribed or, is engraved into that tree right beside the cliff where she almost fell off, right where she was walking out to. So again, it's this balance of this real or surreal type of stuff going on. Is how was this symbol exactly at the cliff where she went off? Again, in reality, that's really kind of convenient or weird, and we still don't even know why all these symbols are engraved everywhere. But on the surreal side of things, like, is it a spirit? Is it some type of force that's leading her to that spot? And, did they have something to do with engraving the symbol in the tree? So, yeah, again, really interesting stuff, but I just thought kind of a small scene. It wasn't that big of a deal. She gets back, and, Van kind of comforts her and seems to settle down, that night or in that moment. But it was kind of an interesting thing to see that symbol again on that tree. And that I'm really curious about this symbol, right? And how it got all these places, and how they're going to explain that eventually. So looking forward to that. But that's about all we get in the teenager timeline for this episode. At least to me. Obviously, I probably did miss some things, but those are the kind of big ones I want to talk about here. So on to the adult timeline then. I thought this Taissa story this episode was actually really great. I really liked it, especially because of the twist, right? Until the twist, it's kind of like, okay, right? Like, okay, this kind of just plays out, and the sun comes over and all that. But as we see, later on in the episode, it is this twist. So, of course, she's kind of going about her day, which, again, I think I mentioned earlier, but great montage here. And I love the way they transition between teenage Lottie, or not teenage Lottie, teenage Thaisa and adult Thaisa, and actually had adult Thaisa sideways, basically, in that when they come back, she's sideways, and then she has all the coffee and that. So I just thought really creative directing in this episode. I thought that was a really great choice there. And so we see her kind of waking up, going about her day, having all of this coffee, just to kind of keep herself going, trying to stay busy and not think about things. And then Sammy appears, and he comes over he comes over from school. He walked home from school. Now he's at her house, and she calls Simone to come pick him up. But then when Simone gets there, he is not there, and they think he ran out of his room because the window's open and all that. But like I said, we find out he was never actually there at all, and he's been at school waiting for someone to pick him up this whole time. So this really did fool me. I thought it was a great twist. Now looking back at it, it was really strange how he just showed up in the house, how he would have gotten in there. So, in hindsight, it's like, okay, yeah, I probably shouldn't have fallen for this. I should have suspected something, but I really didn't. When this twist happened, I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, damn, okay. Like, he was never there. And Thaisa really just imagined this whole thing. And so I think it's I think it's Simone who says, you're incredibly ill, right? When she figures this out, that he was never there. And again, Thaisa had this whole episode again of Sammy being there. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty great twist to kind of make what otherwise just would have been kind of a small little subplot of the episode be, mean something a little bit bigger here, with Thaisa. And then when they're arguing in the car at the very end of the episode here, they get into this crash, and you just knew it was going to happen because Thaisa is looking at Simone for like seconds on end, and we're just like, kind of stuck in this moment, and it's like, when is this crash going to happen? When is she going to hit somebody or something? And of course it does happen at the end of the sequence. So we'll have to see what happens to them. It doesn't look life-threatening, really. Obviously, I don't think either of them are going to die. Maybe Simone, I guess. But anyways, we'll have to see how they are and what happens out of that. And also for her political run, too. That's something to keep in mind, too, with her whole victory now. She gets in this car crash. Probably not good publicity. So that story gets out, probably not good either. So yeah, Tyson in a bad place in a lot of ways at this point. But I thought this was really great, and they've handled a lot of her episodes so well because again, we see this from her perspective rather, and they could have told it from another perspective in that, but it wouldn't worked as quite as well with this twist that Sammy was never there and it was just another episode. So yeah, I thought that was really great, and we'll have to see what happens to the both of them there. And then we see Shauna is questioned by Kevin about Adam. So this one was weird because Kevin was Natalie's, guy that she kind of got close to get information about Travis in season 1, and here he is back, which I thought was like a little weird to me. I just thought it was a little weird why you wouldn't just get a different cop now investigating this different case. Unless I'm forgetting something about season 1 and he was somehow involved with this Adam case, or Adam in some capacity, or maybe it is just in their town. He's a, detective, and, maybe he just got this case now too. It just seemed a little weird that it's the same character now coming back. But it is kind of useful because, of course, he comes to Shauna's home and she lets him in and talks to him because she knows him and went to high school with him. And so that connection obviously kind of gets him in the door, where otherwise, if it was just a stranger, a cop she didn't know, obviously this scene wouldn't have played out the way it did. So he reveals that they know about her texts with him, which is kind of an interesting detail there. And so she kind of panics a little bit, kind of says, do I need a lawyer, and all this stuff. And so I think he's like kind of suspecting her, but not really. I don't think he really feels, like she had anything to do with it in that capacity. And then Callie saves her, actually. Callie does something good. She kind of interrupts and gets Kevin to leave a little early there in the conversation. But then is followed by this other cop who's with Kevin, as we find out later in the episode. And she goes into this bar with a friend. And the guy at the bar that she goes and talks to is this cop in, basically undercover. And is the one who's following her, just checking on her. And of course, she is the one who goes up and talks to him and reveals the information, about Shauna's affair and that she's cheating on her dad and all this stuff. So Callie just continues to cause trouble and really make things complicated for Shauna. So we'll say this was definitely my least favorite part of the episode. I just am really not a fan of this Callie story at all. I'll share more of my thoughts when I get to my rating of the episode but it's just very predictable. Of course, like I predicted last episode, she keeps the ID, which we see in this episode. She's holding on to it. So I'm not a fan of all this stuff, but it does seem like at least she did something good this episode and helped Shauna, but at the same time, she does just as much damage or more. So at the end of the day, she is still hurting Shauna in a lot of ways, and I don't think that it's going to end. I think this is just going to keep happening, and she's really going to get Shauna messed up in this whole case, and really reveal too much. So anyways, we'll have to see there. So then adult Lottie, I thought this was interesting, denies that she is running a cult, right? So Natalie and her kind of have a conversation there. It's like, okay, right? Like, it basically is. And I think Natalie kind of, denies that. She's like, okay, right? We all know that she basically is running this cult, but yeah, she denies it and says that the burning the guy alive last episode was some type of therapy or something like that. So she's kind of trying to explain this away. But anyways, the main point of their whole conversations was that she reveals to Natalie what happened to Travis that night that he died. So she describes it as an accident, and then we see it kind of play out. And it was kind of cool to see adult Travis as well. I'm not sure if that's the first time we've seen him. I think we did maybe see him in season 1, but this I think was the most we've seen of him at least. And it was really interesting to see kind of what mindset he was in that night, talking to Natalie and, to Lottie at that point, and, saying that he wanted to be close to death, to have that connection and that kind of thing. And so this is what he's trying to do. And so we see he falls asleep, Lottie falls asleep, and then he drives off to this warehouse where, we know that he died, from this crane. And Lottie ends up tracking him down, and they agree that, she's going to let him up just a little bit until he goes unconscious, and then she's going to, drag him down after that. But she describes this whole thing, and it's this accident that the button doesn't work, and so she can't lower him once he goes up. And my thinking is, like, just grab him. Like, couldn't she have just jumped up, grabbed his legs, and pulled him down, or at least held him down? Maybe then she gets dragged up too, with the power of that crane. I don't know. But that's just my first thought is if the button's not working, run up and try to drag him down or do something, right? So it does seem a little too easy to me, that whole story. I'm sure that there's something that she's leaving out there. And then even just after that, we see, I don't think she tells Natalie this part, but we do see that she sees a dead Laura, which is the girl who tried to fly that plane in Flight of the Bumblebee episode in season 1. And she sees a dead kind of figure of Laura. And it's kind of this horrifying thing where she turns into this kind of, I'm not even kind of this monster looking thing, and really creepy. And so she sees Laura in this moment, gets distracted, and then when she comes back, Travis is all the way up and long gone. He's past the point of saving. He's dead. So that I don't think she told Natalie, but even the rest of the story that she does tell Natalie, I still find a little weird that that's how it went down. So I'm sure we'll find out more details of this whole story. And I have a feeling it didn't go down exactly the way that she described, but we'll have to see. But it was really interesting to see, and I didn't know that they would reveal this much actually this soon, but it was really interesting to see what happened to Travis, and again, what mindset that he was actually in that night when this happened. So yeah, really interesting, but I'm sure that's not the end of that story about what happened to Travis that night for sure. And also, of course, that note, that Lottie shows Natalie that tell Nat she was right, something like that. So I'll have to also see what that means, really, right? Like, what was Natalie right about, right? So I'm hopefully, we'll get some more answers for that. So then lastly, Misty runs into Elijah Wood. I know that he probably has a name in the show, like he probably has a character name, but I'm just calling him Elijah Wood for, I think, all my recaps. It's just so great. It's such a good role for him to play. Like, I think this is just so awesome, to see him here. And I didn't even realize really that it was his voice in episode 1, but I didn't realize that it was his voice until after I did my review and all that, and then looked into it a little bit more and found out, okay, this is Elijah Wood's voice, and he's also going to be in next episode. And so here he is. So we actually see him in person, like where you see his face now for the first time in this episode. So he's this citizen detective from Reddit that she saw last episode and then was conversing a little bit here. So he comes into her work at the nursing home there, leaves her this note, and tells her about this kind of opportunity to question this guy at the motel Natalie was staying at. Thinks the FBI is coming to question him, so now they're probably going to impersonate, FBI agents or something like that and go and question this guy, try to get some more answers. So yeah, I just think this is perfect. Christina Ricci and Elijah Wood bouncing off each other. I can't wait, right? Just bring on this partnership or whatever this is going to be, friendship, maybe even like a romantic relationship. I don't know. We'll have to see. But just a really big fan of seeing Elijah Wood here and seeing the two of them together, hopefully in the future. So yeah, we're looking forward to that one. It is interesting though that they are having Misty take this long. I really did think that she would find Natalie in this episode right away. So it is interesting to me that they're kind of backing this up a little bit and having Misty and Elijah Wood kind of have to work out some stuff in order to find Natalie, which I thought would be a lot quicker. But anyways, we'll have to see. Maybe next episode they find her already and I'll end up being right. I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll have to see for that one. But anyways, those are just about all my thoughts for the episode. Now I'll get to my rating. Alright, so in terms of the rating for this episode, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5, an even 4. So a little bit of a step up from last episode. Just thought it was much more eventful, right, than that premiere, as I said off the top. A lot more stuff happened in this episode, like literally. There's just more kind of mystery, more intrigue, and especially that ending I thought was just such a huge jump into the cannibalism and that whole kind of story that we obviously know is going to, play out as the series goes on here, as we've been teased. So, yeah, we'll have to see, of course, again, like how much of a jump it really is. Maybe next episode they kind of pull it back again and then we won't see it again for a number of episodes. Maybe they keep going. I'm not sure, but it was a big jump and a lot of stuff was kind of packed into this episode, which I did really like about this one. Like I've been saying, a few great creative direction choices here and sequences. The ending, of course, like I said in the episode, with the interlacing of them being at the table in this kind of fantasy, dreamlike scene, and then the reality of them eating the corpse. The Thaisa montage, when she's introduced in this episode, was great again, with kind of the tilting of that shot, with that transition. Javi and Nat, it's not Javi, I wrote Javi here, but it's Travis, yeah, that'd be weird. Travis and that sex scene as well, and the way that Travis is experiencing that. thought that was a really well shot scene, and then of course that whole sequence of the snow kind of flying down and that whole thing. So really liked a lot of these direction choices here. I thought it was a really creative way of showing a lot of these scenes, and I didn't see that last episode, so I did really like that in this one. A little too quick of a jump to the cannibalism, so I mentioned this earlier. I'm not sure if this is necessarily a negative. It's not really a positive. It's just something I wanted to kind of point out. That kind of went into the rating a little bit of this and kind of my overall thoughts of the episode is I'm just wondering if it's a little too quick to get into this this early, if it really is a 5-season plan. So we'll have to see. Of course, again, every time I say 5-season plan, there's no guarantee that they get 5 seasons, of course, right? Showtime has not, came out and said that they've given them 5 seasons or been, confirmed for that. So every time I say that, there is still probably a good chance that they don't get the 5 seasons. So, keep that in mind as well. I don't want to get, too, kind of set on, it's going to be a 5-season show, when in reality it might not be. We'll have to see. But ratings so far for that premiere broke all kinds of records for Showtime, so really great sign nonetheless. Okay, so this Callie story to me, yeah, definitely the kind of the weak spot of this episode, and for this season, I think, we're just seeing how this is going to play out. It's very predictable. I predicted exactly kind of what was going to happen in this episode when I did my last review last week. Of course, she's going to keep that ID. Of course, she's going to cause trouble. Of course, she's going to get Shauna, messed up in all of this stuff and worse off than she already is. And yeah, especially that dynamic with her and Shauna is just really cliche. It's just, I've seen it a lot on TV and in movies. And I just feel like, again, it's just not quite at the level where we saw in season 1. And I feel like Callie and Shauna's relationship in season 1 just was a little better to me. It wasn't as prevalent either as they're making Callie so far this season, and so it was kind of bearable with the kind of a little bit of the cliche in there. But this season, with having her so prominent in Shauna's storyline in particular, especially these first 2 episodes, has been kind of eye-rolling to me, at least, to be honest. It's just been a little bit, it's like really cliche, really predictable. So we'll have to see, where this goes. Maybe this is just the first couple episodes. Maybe something will happen and Callie will kind of take a step back and start helping Shauna. Or at least just kind of go about this in a more, nuanced way and explore this relationship a little more instead of Callie just ignoring Shauna every chance she gets and, going off, being rebellious. It's just kind of something I've seen before. I'm sure we've all seen it before. So, yeah, definitely my biggest negative for this episode. And I just don't like the direction it's going because I have a feeling that it's just going to continue with Callie and we're going to see a lot more of this play out. But we'll have to see, of course. All right, so my favorite character for this episode, kind of a spotlight here, is got to be Shauna, played by, of course, Melanie Linsky. And in the Teenager Timeline, it's played by Sophie Nélisse, I believe, how you pronounce that last name. But yeah, of course, Shauna, I had to highlight for this episode, just a really great way to start the episode with her and Jackie again. And then in a lot of ways, the way the episode ends is kind of that mirror of, again, like I said at the beginning of the episode, when she almost cuts her arm off, she does seem kind of taken aback and kind of alarmed, that she just did this or that she was even thinking of doing this. And then at the end, it's just kind of letting loose, and she starts what is kind of the feast of everyone kind of, eating Jackie's corpse. And she says, she wants us to, or she would want to, she would want us to, or she is offering that. So, that was a really great kind of parallel of where she goes in this episode. And obviously, as well, part of that whole grieving process that Shauna's going about in a very odd way, but it is kind of part of that, I think, as well for that character. So we'll have to see kind of where she goes, and I'm sure that she is going to play a big part in this whole kind of I guess this whole process of cannibalism, right? Of this kind of dive into that world, and of course, as it will go and, get even worse, I'm sure, as we've been teased about. So I'm sure that she's going to play a big part in that, going off what her role is in this last scene of this episode, kind of getting these characters to do it. So just a fascinating character so far. And then, of course, in the adult timeline, it's really just this episode was just her and her daughter, really, and that whole play on. And then I thought, Melanie Lynskey was just so great in that scene with the detective. And then I think she had a really great kind of reply to Callie there, and saying that, the detective might see her. So she's not really worried about Callie, actually. She's worried about the detective seeing them. And so I thought that was kind of a nice kind of line there. I think Melanie Lynskey obviously is great. She steals the show in every scene she's in this one. So yeah, she was great this episode. Definitely had to talk about Shauna, and really interested to see where that character goes in the teenager timeline for sure. All right, so then let's end off with some predictions. There's kind of some general predictions for next episode, or I guess, as the season goes on here, what I might see. So one thing I did not mention is Ben, Coach Ben. Things are not looking good for him going forward after that ending, I don't think, because, of course, we see all of them kind of digging in on Jackie's corpse, and he is horrified by this, just by seeing this play out. He's, of course, back a little bit, and then we see him walk into the cabin and shut the door, and that's how the episode ends. But it's not a good thing, because if he's not involved in it, that means that he's probably going to become a target, and he is obviously going to be against the majority here, and he's going to argue, obviously, against doing this and going into this kind of, behavior of eating other people. And yeah, I think he's going to become probably one of their first targets, to be honest. That would be my prediction. Just seeing how that ending played out and seeing his reaction to it, not good. And I think even on his face in that moment, he knows that things have kind of gone too far at this point, and I think he's really worried as well for himself in that scene. So not looking good for Coach Ben. He's one of my favorites for sure, but not looking good for him. And that's even in the immediate future. I don't even think that's like 2 seasons down the road, a few episodes down the road. I'm talking like next episode or episode 4. I think things could get really bad for Ben, but we'll have to see on that one. So I think that Travis is probably going to find out about Natalie's whole stunt. I'm not sure if that'll happen next episode, but like I said, if and when they eventually do find Javi and he's alive, obviously he's going to know that Natalie's whole thing was fake, and I don't think that's going to be good for their relationship at all. But I do think at some point he's going to find out that it was faked. That, or even if he looks at Natalie's leg, which she hides when they have sex in that scene, but maybe she doesn't hide it for long. Maybe he sees it, catches on. We'll have to see, but I think that's definitely going to come back. And then, as I mentioned, I think Lottie's lying about her Travis story, or at least some details there seem a little weird to me. So I'm sure we'll see more of that in next episode. And it seems like Natalie's kind of stuck there as well for now. So maybe they'll have another exchange, and we'll learn a little bit more about that. And lastly, we are now officially on necklace watch. We have to see who gets this necklace next, because we know it's not Shauna. She's not the pit girl from the pilot sequence. So we'll have to see who that is, who gets the necklace next, and whether she will be the pit girl or maybe gets passed on again. I'm not sure. We'll have to see, but definitely on necklace watch to see who gets that thing next. Now that it's kind of officially in play, because now it's, Jackie had it, she was dead, now it's off of her, now it's kind of in play, and we'll have to see where it goes next. But anyways, that'll just about do it for this review, so thank you guys so much for watching this one, and like I said off the top, love to hear what you guys thought of this episode. All thoughts, any predictions, all that stuff, love to hear from you guys as always. But again, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you then next week for Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 3.